What if you could take an ocean of salt water and use it to make a desert bloom? This isn't a fantasy, it's exactly what the people of Israel set out to do. In one of the most ambitious engineering projects of our time, they decided to challenge their own geography, carving a massive, artificial river through the heart of a barren desert. But they didn't stop there. They combined this colossal construction project with cutting-edge technology to perform what seems like magic, turning seawater into fresh, drinkable water. This is the story of how a nation faced down its harshest environment and won. It's a story of concrete, courage, and innovation. Stick with us to the very end to witness the breathtaking moment when water finally flowed and a desert came back to life. And if you're fascinated by stories of human ingenuity that changed the world, be sure to subscribe for more content like this. To understand the scale of this achievement, you first have to understand the problem. For decades, the Negev Desert in southern Israel was a land on the brink. It was a vast, arid expanse where the ground was cracked and dry, and cultivating anything was a constant uphill battle. Summer temperatures here are no joke. They regularly soar above 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Rain isn't a season. It's a rare event that might happen for just a few weeks each year. To make matters worse, the underground water sources, known as aquifers, were slowly but surely drying up. Agriculture, the lifeline of any nation, was teetering on the edge of collapse in this region. Many families didn't have running water. They survived on water hauled in by trucks from faraway places. It was a harsh, unforgiving, and daily struggle for survival in a landscape that seemed determined to push people out. But here's the powerful irony of the situation. Just a few dozen miles to the west lay the Mediterranean Sea, vast, endless, and filled with water. But it was salt water, completely useless for drinking or farming. That stark contrast between the parched, thirsty desert and the undrinkable ocean sparked Israel's boldest and most audacious gamble to pull the sea inland, deep into the desert's heart, and transform it into a source of life. This grand vision eventually became known as the Desert Water Project. Officially approved in the year 2000, it was launched with a staggering investment of nearly $3 billion. This wasn't just another public works program. It was a national mission, a declaration that they would not be defeated by their environment. With that level of commitment and vision, Israel wasn't just planning to move water. It was preparing to challenge the desert itself, to force rivers to flow where only sand had existed for centuries. The project was a promise of green fields, thriving communities, and a secure future in a place that many had written off as hopelessly barren. It was a statement of resilience and hope. Before a single drop of water could be channeled, the first and most critical task was to tame the desert itself. You can't just start digging in sand dunes. They are constantly shifting and moving with the wind. A construction site could be completely buried overnight. The desert needed a stable, solid foundation, and they had to build it from the ground up. The project began with a massive, high-tech reconnaissance mission. Teams used high-resolution satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and took thousands of wind measurements to meticulously map the ever-shifting dunes. The goal was to find areas stable enough to support a massive, years-long construction project. Survey crews lived out in the heart of the Negev for months, drilling hundreds of boreholes, some more than 100 feet deep, to understand the geological secrets hidden beneath the surface. Every route marker for the future canal was placed by hand with centimeter-level accuracy. The entire path had to be carefully planned to avoid wind corridors where a single powerful sandstorm could undo months of work in a day. Once the path was set, the heavy machinery moved in. Hundreds of bulldozers were deployed to flatten the dunes. They cut down the high ridges and redistributed the sand into the lower areas. The goal was to create a smooth, balanced surface strong enough to support the weight of massive cranes and excavators without the ground collapsing under them. It was like preparing a construction site the size of a small country. After the bulldozers had done their work, the sand was level but still loose and unpredictable. It couldn't support heavy machinery. Engineers discovered a brilliantly simple solution: water. They found that by injecting controlled amounts of water into the loose surface, they could bind the sand grains together, creating a denser and more cohesive layer. It's the same principle you use when building a sandcastle, just on a monumental scale. Using long sprinkler arms and a network of underground pipes, they sprayed the entire construction site, allowing the moisture to penetrate several inches deep. Once the sand reached the perfect level of dampness, heavy rollers moved in. The constant rumble of these steel drums echoed across the desert as they compacted the surface, squeezing out air pockets and locking the sand particles firmly in place. By the time the surface dried under the fierce desert sun, It had hardened into a solid foundation, strong enough to carry the weight of cranes, cement mixers, and supply trucks. It was an incredible achievement, a stable base built from nothing but sand and water. With the groundwork finally complete, the real digging could begin. This was one of the largest digging operations ever undertaken in modern Israel. Hundreds of excavators and massive dump trucks roared to life. The numbers are hard to grasp. Every single day, around 70,000 tons of sand and soil were removed from a construction corridor stretching nearly 250 miles. Over 1,000 Peruvian engineers, operators, and laborers worked in rotating shifts, enduring daytime temperatures that often exceeded 115 degrees Fahrenheit. This was a round-the-clock effort fought against the brutal elements. The canal itself was shaped with a wide U profile, about 150 feet across at the base, and an average depth of 23 feet. This specific design was chosen to allow water to flow naturally downhill, relying on gravity instead of energy-intensive pumps. The slope of the canal bed was held to an incredibly tight margin within 1 inch of drop for every 100 feet of length. To ensure this perfection, survey crews rechecked the elevation with laser leveling instruments every 160 feet. In a great example of recycling, most of the excavated sand wasn't wasted. It was reused to build up both sides of the canal, forming strong embankments or levees 10 to 16 feet high. In areas with weak soil, engineers drilled deep sand piles or mixed cement and clay to strengthen the base and prevent the canal from sinking later on. The construction site was a breathtaking sight, a hundreds-mile-long line of human activity and machinery, a mechanical river carving the shape of a real one into the heart of the desert. The excavation phase lasted for months, but a new, more subtle challenge emerged. The challenge wasn't just the heat, it was the incredible thirst of the sand itself. The desert ground was like a giant sponge capable of absorbing any exposed water within hours. If the canal bed wasn't perfectly sealed, the precious water would just seep away into the ground, lost before it could travel more than a few miles. That's why the lining phase became one of the most critical and delicate stages of the entire project. First, the canal bed and slopes were moistened and leveled with a fine layer of sand. Then, massive concrete panels about 4 to 5 inches thick were poured in place. These sections, measuring 16 feet long by 10 feet wide, were each separated by expansion joints. These joints were then filled with a hot tar-like sealant to prevent seepage and allow the concrete to expand and contract with the extreme desert heat without cracking. In areas with especially unstable ground, an additional waterproof plastic layer was placed beneath the concrete, fixed with steel anchors and covered for protection. Altogether, more than 220 miles of canal were lined with concrete, creating one of the largest waterproofing systems ever built in the Middle East. To finish the job, engineers planted special grasses and desert trees along the embankments to stabilize the slopes and minimize sand from blowing into the canal. From above, the finished canal looked like a shimmering silver ribbon cutting across a sea of gold, a concrete artery waiting to carry its first life-giving water. A massive canal can't just be a simple trench for water. It requires a complex network of hundreds of auxiliary structures, like a nervous system, to ensure the water is transported, controlled, and distributed safely and efficiently. At the very head of the system, where water is first diverted, engineers built a massive structure with 9 enormous steel gates to act as the main tap, controlling the entire flow of the system. Along the main route, there are over 900 different engineering components. This includes reinforced concrete bridges, built wherever the canal intersects a road or railway, ensuring traffic can continue to flow unimpeded above the water. Spillways and siphons. These act as safety valves, managing water levels and directing flow under obstacles. Drainage culverts and aqueducts. These are large conduits that allow natural streams and seasonal floodwaters to pass safely beneath the artificial canal, preventing clashes between the man-made and natural water systems. Distribution gates, placed every 6 to 9 miles. These are like smaller taps that control the flow of water into a network of smaller secondary canals that feed directly into farms and communities. Everything in this complex system must operate in perfect harmony. A single malfunction at one gate could deprive hundreds of hectares of farmland of their crucial water supply, highlighting the incredible precision required to make this dream work. After more than 15 years of immense effort, planning, and backbreaking construction, the entire canal system finally entered its most nerve-wracking phase, water testing. This wasn't a simple flick of a switch. Engineers slowly, carefully, opened the main gates. They let the water flow into the canal section by section, not all at once. They started with a small trickle, gradually increasing the flow while technical teams inspected every single point of the structure. They measured pressure, checked for the tiniest leaks, monitored the slopes, and recorded any ground movement. Every tiny deviation was corrected before they dared to open the system fully, and then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. When the first rush of water finally flowed through the cracked, dry canal bed, desert communities erupted in celebration. Locals called it the day the desert came back to life. Wherever the water reached, cheers followed. It wasn't just a flow of water, it was a flow of hope. It was the fulfillment of a dream that generations of farmers had waited their entire lives to witness the moment real water finally ran across their land, promising a future they had only ever dreamed of. But here's the crucial part of the story that makes this project so unique. The water being channeled from the Mediterranean Sea couldn't help anyone in the state it was in. It was still saltwater. And in the desert, salt can be even more dangerous than drought, poisoning the very land it's meant to save. Before this water could become a source of life for millions, it had to pass through an intelligent and advanced desalination system, a chain of futuristic technologies stretching from the coast deep into the inland. Here's a step-by-step look at how they perform what seems like magic. 1. The initial cleanup. First, the seawater goes through multiple stages of mechanical filtration. It passes through screens that capture large debris like seaweed and plastic, then into settling tanks where sand and other sediments sink to the bottom. It even goes through oil separation to remove any potential contaminants. 2. The fine filter. Even after that initial cleanup, seawater is filled with countless fine particles and microscopic organisms. To prevent these from clogging the advanced and expensive machinery that comes next, the water is pushed through massive tanks containing hollow fiber membranes. These act as ultra-fine barriers, blocking algae, bacteria, and even the tiniest remaining particles. 3. The main event, reverse osmosis. This is the heart of the entire process. Under immense pressure, the pre-filtered seawater is forced through semi-permeable membranes. Each pore in these membranes is hundreds of times smaller than a human hair. This invisible wall is so fine that it allows only pure H2O molecules to pass through, while salts, heavy metals, and other chemicals are left behind and flushed away. High-pressure pumps generate this force, transforming the salty, murky seawater into a stream that is almost perfectly pure. 4. Making it water again. Ironically, the water that leaves the reverse osmosis modules is too pure. It's so empty of minerals that it tastes flat and can be slightly corrosive to pipes. So precise dosing systems add back small, safe amounts of minerals like calcium and magnesium. This rebalances the water's pH and restores a clean, natural taste. 5. The final safeguard. Finally, the water is disinfected. Using powerful ultraviolet light or ozone, any remaining microorganisms are eliminated. A tiny, safe trace of chlorine is added to ensure the water stays safe as it travels through hundreds of miles of pipelines to people's homes. Every parameter of this process is monitored in real time by digital sensors, and lab samples are constantly analyzed. Only after passing all these rigorous layers of control does the water earn the right to be called a lifeline. When that first perfected flow of water finally crossed the Negev desert, everything began to change, not just on the surface, but deep within people's lives. The land that had once lay cracked under the burning sun started to come back to life. Farmers who had been forced to leave because of the drought returned, full of hope. They pitched tents, drove stakes, and began plowing the first fertile fields of their lives amid the sand and rock. The water from the main channel was divided through a vast network of secondary canals, pressure pipes, and drip irrigation systems, a water-saving technology Israel itself pioneered. This system delivers water directly to the roots of each plant, treating every single drop as precious as gold. As a result, regions once thought hopeless were revived into thriving agricultural zones. In the early years, tens of thousands of acres of farmland turned a vibrant green. Where there was once only dust and sun, now stood orchards of juicy oranges, vineyards, waving wheat fields, vegetable farms, and rows of date palms heavy with fruit. Seen from satellites, the change is stunning. A long green ribbon now winds across the golden desert. It's been called the Green Artery of Israel, an artificial lifeline connecting the north and south of the country. The transformation went beyond the fields. Villages were rebuilt, children got new schools, and high-tech farms rose from the sand, creating a sustainable future for generations to come. So that's the whole incredible story. You've seen how the Israelis moved billions of tons of sand, carved canals across a desert, and built a sophisticated network to bring life to a barren land. You've seen the cutting-edge technology that turns seawater into clean, safe drinking water. It's a testament to what humans can achieve with vision, determination, and innovation. It's a story that proves that even the most impossible challenges can be overcome. This river in the desert is more than just a waterway. It's a symbol of resilience and a powerful example of how technology can be harnessed to create a better, more sustainable world. If you found this journey as fascinating as we did, if you're amazed by the technology and the human spirit behind it, then let us know in the comments below what impressed you the most. And for more stories that explore the incredible feats of engineering and science shaping our world, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.